Yeah.
Heard that?
Also, according to Wikipedia, my character has undescended testicles. So, which anyone who's been watching the show knows that that is a quality that I've been.
We don't talk about this in front of Toby.
Yeah. Well, you talked about sort of how the time period that we're over episodes, how long we're taking. So there has been some jumps because you were saying earlier that you wanted there to be a baby involved and for me to be on the throne. But now I think in order for me to stay alive, the jumps have to get smaller. I thought we could do it like 24.
I saw it's the 24 frame.
And we, instead of like the beep 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 beep, we just have like a sundial. And then I could live forever.
Like every season could just be, a week at the castle. That seems fair, right?
Yeah.
Template, 3 months later.
But are you feeling bound by history, or do you think that Reigns is a show that could kind of chart its own course?
I feel we take advantage of history is I think the best way to put it. And when you look at the show in the first season, you'll see that we hit most of the major signposts. And, that happened at court. If they were big and they were dramatic, we used them. But we moved forward at different speeds. And so, we'll see how it feels to tell stories of, Francis and Mary ruling together. And but I'm sort of team Frary myself, and so I'm in no rush to say goodbye to Toby or to Francis.
I think the love triangle was kind of such a great part of the first season. People were definitely a little surprised that you went for a bash kind of marriage so quickly.
Right.
They're kind of great together too.
They are.
Why did you decide to do that? Because it feels like it's harder to root for, what's it called, MASH?
MASH. I see you.
When both people are married.
I feel like healthy people move on, and Mary and Francis were wed, and it seemed like a great kind of left turn for the show to take. It felt really motivated that King Henry would do it almost as a cruel joke. I will say, in writing the show early in the season, there was a really small scene, a moment between Ken and Bash where they were kind of sitting on a sofa, and she was actually
That was really early on.
asking him about his father, and his response was, it's hard to imagine a more awkward conversation. And I love their chemistry, and I just kind of put it in my pocket for later.
Oh, that's so interesting. So it was kind of you're writing towards their chemistry.
Yeah, the chemistry was there, for the taking, and I thought, and they're both such good actors that I felt like even if they didn't have chemistry together, there would be something great in that too. So I love to, paint ourselves into a corner and then see what comes out of it.
I'm really glad that we didn't continue with that love triangle business, into perpetuity, because I feel like so many shows do that. They have like this endless love triangle where the lead female gets with one guy and then just with the other guy and then just with the other guy again, and it's tired and it's exhausting, and I'm sick of seeing it. And like once you can only do that for so long before it gets just bloody boring.
Well, it's not our show. It's also not our show to kind of lean on things like that, and I
We don't rely on love triangles as a main plot device. We have storylines.
But I think I felt earned when it was happening. I felt like he was always kind of looking at what his brother had. He was enchanted by you, and there was a political motivation for you to come together. And once that was passed, it felt like they would separate and move on, and they did.
So does that mean that the Bash-Mary relationship will now be like completely platonic? Will they totally hands off?
I feel like
They'll always have a special place in our heart. They'll always have a special relationship, I think. I just don't think they'll bang.
I think Toby has something to say about that.
I do say. I do say to Bash at some point something about trust in the next season. That there's a regaining of trust. At that moment, actually, in the end, when we hug, I think that we're back to being. Things are easily forgotten when you're moving forward.
No, I thought that kind of embrace when Francis goes and embraces,
Yeah, in the first episode of the next one, we hug each other like 3 times.
Yeah.
They were like, that's a good moment, let's put it in more.
So the dynamic between the brothers in the new season, will it be much more friendly, or they still have a tension now that Francis is king?
He wants Bash on his side, because despite what happened, I think there's a family counts for a lot in this world.
Yeah.
Sort of, I mean, it's here and there, but it's one of the things that you can sort of rely on, because everyone is trying to stab everyone else in the back. So
it's also better
having
to
someone
have,
around that has the same blood as you, and
it's also better to know where they're at, to people that can potentially cause a threat to you.
Mm-hmm.
To have them on your team, I think that even if that's not a conscious thought,
yeah,
he's much better to have him to know where he is, because he's already learned how dangerous his brother can be to him. That's just your mother speaking to you now.
There are different kinds of love stories on the show, and there are obviously romantic love stories, but there are stories about the love between brothers. There are stories about the love between friends, and when you look at particularly Mary and her ladies, they're all but orphans. None of them have really been raised by their parents. They found family in each other, and they value that. And so we wouldn't have them betray each other without motivation.
Except flawlessly from the husband. Yeah.
Sorry.
Idiot.
You want to break.
Idiot.
I mean, that's one of the things that's so interesting about Lola having a baby is that it feels like you're setting up history maybe repeating itself, right? With the Catherine and Diane.
It's a bit of the son repeating the sins of the father, are we, Rick?
Yeah, I am my father's son.
Dark.
Are you planning on having it kind of track that, or will you take it in a different direction?
We are tracking that. I think, Mary and Francis are going to do everything they can to live a life that's very different from their parents, but, the constraints around them are very similar to.
There's only so much you can do.
It's easier said than done, I think.
Yes.
And what role will Catherine play now that she's no longer queen, she's the mother of the queen? How will she fit into the puzzle? Do you know?
Tell me, please.
I feel like Catherine is at her best when she is scrappy and dangerous. And, I think that she is, by definition, a little bit marginalized because she's no longer, the queen. She's the queen mother. And that makes for some, I think, crunchy and dangerous encounters.
Nice. I like it.
The show's kind of always had certain supernatural elements to it. Do you expect to continue that in season 2, or will you pull back?
We talk about it in the writers' room. We talk about season 2 as really, what the plague leaves us with is, it's a kind of a political upheaval, but it's also what we're calling is kind of the haunted season. And it's primarily people are haunted by the things that they've done. They're haunted by surviving, and we'll see different iterations of those hauntings that are going to be very scary and very personal to them.
It sounded like filming was just such a blast. The cast was really tight-knit. Toby, are you still cooking for everybody?
What's that?
Are you still cooking for people?
Yeah. But
Yeah, about that.
I became a vegetarian, so it's really taken the edge off it's really taken the edge off sort of fine dining. I can't bring people around and sort of like cook them leeks.
Yes, you can.
Okay, everyone come round for leeks.
Okay. Adelaide, it's your turn to start cooking now.
I bake. I can only really do sweet things and bread. I can't cook people food. I can only cook things that involve large amounts of sugar, caramel, and chocolate.
I made Anna a Popwell cake for her birthday, and it's got pop rocks in the bottom. And and this was at the beginning of when Toronto's weather was going crazy, and I travelled like 45 minutes across the worst blizzard with like snow going horizontally this way in a pair of boots where it's just falling over to go get one packet of pop rocks to make a cake, which is satisfying.
And I know part of season 2 will be filming on location in Ireland. Are you excited to get back?
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
beautiful.
It's so gorgeous, beautiful.
Yeah. I'm hoping I'll get some time off this time so I can
It's my falconry, it's a falcon school.
and go riding and go traipsing through the forest, and there are these gorgeous little islands out in the lake that I'm convinced have fairies on them. So I'd like to go and see the islands.
Well, speaking of season 2, we have something very special for all of you. An exclusive sneak peek at
A fall now for you with us with soccer.
Yes.
just you. So let's let them in on the secret.